Welcome to the channel. We're back in the shed with Hedgehog, and we're basically going to connect to our previous video. If you haven't seen that, we will put a link up, and you might want to start off there. One of the biggest problems with keeping the hedgehog is that if you go online and you do your research, you will get caught in a torrent of contradictory advice. I mean, even the cage that we have here, which is a guinea pig cage, quite a few places recommend that you don't use one of those because supposedly hedgehogs get their head caught in between the bars and then suffocate. So I think that they actually recommended a plastic box with holes cut into it.
Yeah, but of course our sanctuary said exactly the opposite, and they said no. A plastic box, even with holes cut into it, will still trap damp and moisture, and hedgehogs, being so close to the ground, are very susceptible to getting ill if they are caught in this kind of damp environment. So they actually provided us with a very large guinea pig cage to keep her in. I think it was actually worse when we looked up what sort of food to buy. I mean, we want to be prepared, but we had websites that said all sorts of things, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is there are also quite a lot of Saharan hedgehogs now which are kept as pet, and that muddies the water even more. But one of the big one was you feed your hedgehog cat food, and some of the cat food is fish flavor or chicken or what have you not. And quite a few people said, oh no, don't give them fish, because they never meet fish in nature and it gives them the runs. And others say, oh, you know, that's just a bunch of hokum. Fish are just protein like anything else. And so a similar argument with chicken. Yeah. And other foods like mealworms, for example, are too high in phosphorus, and others say, oh no, they're fine as a treat. And then, what are the others? Eggs. I mean, to be fair, we tried giving her eggs.
She didn't really want it.
Yeah, hard boiled, but no, she didn't like it.
She didn't like it.
And neither did our hedgehog like fruit very much. Which
so we tried some chopped apple. We tried some grated carrot. Kind of knocked it off to the side and left it on the floor, but didn't eat it.
And you know, the controversy goes further. I mean, the other big area of contention is the weight at which you ought to rescue the hedgehog. Now, we found Hedwig on the 1st of December at 360 grams. Yeah. That's a rescue you have to. That's a hog you have to rescue. It's got very little chance of surviving the winter. But the number that seems to be arrived at is about 600 grams. But 600 grams might very well apply for the North, Scotland, somewhere like that, where it gets very cold in winter. Down here in the south, you might have a lot more wriggle room, and some people will argue that you know, rescuing a hog too early is also not a good idea, and you should always try and add weight to the hog by feeding them. And that's actually something I agree with. I think if I would have found Hedwig a month earlier, we might well have been able to get enough weight on her that she could overwinter on her own.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of weight she put on with us in the last two and a half weeks has been incredible. So I think it is possible.
Yeah, but ultimately what we have done, and what my advice for you would be to resolve all this confusion, is to basically go with whatever your rescue center recommends. And if you do find a hedgehog and it's under 600 grams, if push comes to shove, you can always keep her in overnight and call a rescue center and ask for their advice. Yeah, and if they say, oh no, there's still time, well then you put her out again and just try and feed her up. And if they say, oh no, better to keep her in at this stage, this late in the year, then I'd follow their instructions. And what follows now on our video on how to keep a hedgehog is all based on the instructions we get from our particular rescue and our particular sanctuary. And if your sanctuary disagrees with these instructions, then I highly recommend you follow the instructions of your rescue center or sanctuary, because ultimately if your hog gets sick or has a problem, it has to go back to the rescue center anyway. And you don't want to say, oh, I saw something on YouTube, you know, and that's why my hedgehog is now ill.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll start with how to keep a hedgehog. Starts with the guinea pig cage, which we have here. This is quite a big one. And our hedgehog sanctuary actually provided this, which I thought was very good. I mean, I was quite prepared to go out and buy our own.
Yeah.
But they say, oh no, we have one. Do you want the small one or do you want a big one?
We went for the big one.
Yeah, of course we did. And the basic strategy that we have is that the hedgehog, the guinea pig cage is then lined with newspaper, and we then always have food inside it. The two things which are always in are water and kibble.
Yeah, kitten kibble. Yeah, some dry food. And in the evening we supplement that with a bit of wet cat food as well.
Yeah, which our hedgehog doesn't like to eat.
I've thrown away most of it, to be honest, because
Yeah.
you might find all the biscuits, all the kibble eaten, but the cat food or the wet food is pretty much untouched.
Yeah.
I mean, our sanctuary actually told us to crumble a little bit of Weetabix into it to soak up the jelly, because they advised us the jelly actually gives them the runs.
Yeah, and once they get the runs, it's very difficult to wean them off again.
Yeah. So, but to be honest, with the amount of wet cat food our hedgehog is not eating, that we haven't had any chance of her getting the runs from
Yeah,
that one.
I have to say she's become very fussy.
Yeah.
I do worry about what happens to her when she goes back out into the wild. She
Yeah.
probably says, oh, that's worm, I'm not touching that.
But in fairness, our sanctuary were very relaxed about her having lots and lots of kitten kibble.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be quite good for her teeth.
Yeah.
Actually.
And the thing they also recommended is that you line the cage quite deeply with newspaper. That has actually not worked for us.
No.
Because when she drinks a lot, she has a massive pee and it soaks through multiple layers.
Yeah.
So we actually, these days, we only have it about 3 newspapers thick, and we remove the whole lot in one big go.
Yeah.
The other thing that we've given our hedgehog is a little cardboard box, which you can see over here. So that's her house, and she will always either wrap up in the towel or she'll go in the cardboard house. She really likes the cardboard house. Although these days it's actually a little bit too small for her, so she won't fit through the opening because she's quite fat now. So what she'll do, she'll get her snout under it and kind of like lift it up and then crawl under it. And then have it drop back on her.
Yeah.
And the other thing that our particular hedgehog loves as far as bedding goes is a towel. I mean, the towel has been excellent. It doesn't get stuck in her. She loves it. She can roll up in it. You know, she roll up double if she feels cold, or she'll just drape it over her a little bit. Hedgehogs don't like being out in the open. I think that's really the overall lesson here, is that you have to give them something they can hide from. And the other thing that we have experimented with are these shredded paper bits that I've put in more as an effort to try and give her a bit more of a material to play with. And she had, normally she stuffs the front door of her house with it, but today for some reason she's done a poo and then put all the paper on top. So, but you know, it's there to basically simulate leaves.
Yeah.
The thing you have to be really careful with is that hedgehogs basically can't handle dust. So if you give them bedding, for example,
sort of straw. Was it the really fine sawdust or something?
yeah,
like that?
awful. It just, because their nose is basically always in the ground. Yeah, I mean, they don't run around with their head up,
No.
so they get all the dust and stuff.
Yeah.
And
So you've got to avoid it, and whatever you
develop
use it's got to be
products.
dust free.
Yeah, and so you can get dust extracted.
Yeah.
But for us, it's not been worth it, and you then have to pick bits of straw out of your hedgehog. It's just, for us, the paper and the towel has been excellent, and she's been very happy with it.
So I think what we'll do is... Okay, we might have to
Oh, wow.
retie this box.
Yeah.
Should we put that off to the side?
Yeah, that's the first time.
That's the
Up to
first
now,
time
she's
it's
been very
been
good with her box.
Not bad. Right, so I'm going to retract the blanket carefully, because she's wrapped herself up in it very, very thoroughly. Oh, there you are. So what I'm going to do, once I've got her free of this one, which is taking a bit of time. Right, I can see her head is pointing that way. So I'm going to take my hands and scoop her. Oh, you can
I've got
hold
it.
onto it.
Yeah.
Scoop her. My fingers, tickle under it like that. Just scoop her up, and she very obligingly turns into a ball.
That's a lot of grunting today.
That's a lot of grunting. Okay, right, so she's nicely supported in my hands. She's sort of rolled up into a ball. Sometimes when they're a bit more nervous, and she's not nervous at the moment, but if they are nervous, they'll turn into a very tight ball. Makes them easier to pick up, admittedly, but that is actually a bit of a sign that they're worried or stressed. But in this case, she's nice and secure in my hands. But if you need to relax your hedgehog, you can get your hand underneath to support her well. You can just pet her back like that, gently along her back, and that relaxes them. And they'll uncurl for you as well if they're in a tight ball. You can use your fingers and kind of do a little zigzag across their backs. I shan't do that too much because she might decide that she's going to be released on the floor, which she's not, and start trying to run off and drop from this height. So I will just keep her secure.
You know, it just struck me that she's just like a tribble. You know, out of Star Trek, there's those big furry balls that make grunting noises.
She's grunted. She's very vocal today.
Only she doesn't reproduce. She just makes a mess.
Well, the reproducing will come probably sometime in the summer.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I think I will give you a bit of space. No, don't run off.
Right, so we will start by removing the blanket. We've already taken the house out. And at this stage, we're going to take out the water bowl. And we're going to take out the wet food, which the wet food we put a little bit of
crushed Weetabix.
Yeah, crushed Weetabix in to absorb the jelly. And a little bit of a carrot, just grated carrot on top. And then the kibble, which she's left some. And you can have a look at this stage. I mean, she's made an almighty mess in this box. It's normally in the mornings, it's not that bad. Right,
Then she wants to hide again.
yeah, well, we're going to have to make her a new box. So we'll roll the newspaper up like so. And then we'll just fold it all over. And then we'll fold up the other side. And just that quickly, the cage is clean. And this basically just goes into the bin. I'll put it in the bag for now. Now, to rebuild her cage, we'll just get some used newspaper. And the important thing here is that there aren't any staples in it. And then we'll lay them down. Like so.
Pull up my arm.
Right, and 2 layers is normally enough. Like so.
Can't crawl off today.
We'll then give her a pot of fresh kibble and a pot of water. And normally she gets her house back.
Yeah,
but by God, she made a mess of that.
I think we might need to just put a towel and some shredded paper in.
So we'll have a replacement towel. Oh, we have 2 today.
Yeah.
That's probably just as well, because she's going to have to wait for her new house. So 1 and 2, and we have some shredded paper. Not too much, and again, very careful there aren't any staples. Okay, and
Right.
we have a new
brilliant.
hog house
Right.
of sorts. We'll put that, if you give me a second,
Yep.
we'll put that there, and we'll have you over here. Right, you want to put Hedwig inside?
So, when you're ready to release your frisky little hedgehog, you just open up your hands and just lay them flat, and then she's going to instantly
Run past the
run
house.
past the house. Yeah, Hedwig.
Okay, so she's
There
lifting
we go.
it.
She's lifted it. It's
The trouble is it doesn't have as much
It
of the
doesn't
front
have as much as
the draper.
There we go.
A
There we
towel
go.
over it, like so.
So, there. And she'll just settle herself in nicely.
To come back to the mucking out, the routine for mucking out for us is we do it once in the morning at around 10 a.m. or so once the kids have gone to school, and we do it one more time in the evening at around 10 p.m. And the morning one she's a lot happier with than the evening one. And like I say, it's a question of replacing the food and the water every time so she gets a fresh bowl, and muck away by rolling up the paper, and that's about it. As long as the blanket is clean, everything's good. We have had it once where she managed to roll herself up in a blanket and then effectively pooed on herself.
Yeah, I think there might have been a poo on the blanket, and then the way she rolled it.
Yeah, but it was basically all in her spines, and that left us a little bit in a quandary. And what we actually did, we ran about a centimeter of luke water. I mean, actually, it was just about
lukewarm, tepid water in a plastic tub.
And then we put her in it and then ran the water over her back. I think the important thing there is that you don't get their face or their nose in the water. She wasn't very pleased about it.
She was quite upset.
We did not get happy grunting. But on the other hand, you can't have a hedgehog with a poo on her back.
No, and she doesn't like the smell. I mean, you can tell she does walk away from it and get away from it.
The one thing I would also say, it's the hedgehog poo falls apart very easily. Yeah. So it literally just took a couple of seconds, and that was it. And then we put her back in a towel and dried her.
Yeah.
That's the only time we had to go off road with her, really. And,
but generally speaking, we keep the bathing thing to a minimum. I mean,
it's only happened once.
Yeah,
she's been very careful since. She's made sure it doesn't happen again.
Maybe she didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say try not to bathe them. They don't smell anyway. Really, they're generally very clean. So if you can avoid it, it's not the sort of thing we say, oh, it's been a week, let's give you a wash.
No.
Definitely
Not in the slightest. It's only when you really don't have a choice.
Yeah.
This brings us back down to her weight. She's 650 gram.
Yeah.
A few days
ago, and she's been eating non-stop. On the scales, we're on 677, 678 now, so just about 680. And that's only 2 or 3 days.
The trouble is, our girl is getting fat.
Yeah. If this keeps up for another 2 months, and we can't let her out now because it's much too cold.
She'll turn into 1.5 kilos, which is obese for a hedgehog. So we are actually contemplating putting her into hibernation. We called up our local rescue, and we've actually asked, because my initial thought was that we're going to limit the food, but they were very much against that. So we are contemplating, we will monitor her weight carefully for the next week, and then we might very well put her in the cold side of the shed together with the cage, and we'll leave her some kibble and stuff. Very much like putting a fly in the fridge, isn't it? Just to see, and hopefully she'll go into hibernation, and then we'll check on her once in a while, and then we'll pull out at the end of it again and kind of like de-thaw her.
Yeah.
So that's our current worry. We're going to see. I mean, ideally we had hoped that she'd stay with us, but if that happens, we'll make another video about that, and we'll see you then. So this is goodbye from us for now. Bye bye.